Well, let's have a word about Sudan, shall we? The forgotten war. I mean, what is it? I don't know. 20,000 have died. It must be more than that, probably. 13 million displaced, maybe. An awful lot displaced, really. Awful situation in Sudan with this war between Hemeti and his Rapid Support Forces and Burhan and his Sudan Armed Forces. What the hell is the international community doing recognizing Burhan as the head of state of Sudan? Disgraceful. Disgusting. Disgusting. But the international community are a load of nasty little worms, really, aren't they? We are, in a way, responsible for much of this, particularly Britain. Britain was the architect of the partition of Sudan into two countries. 1 million square miles, and we cut it in half, sacrificing democracy for peace. So it was not a fair vote. We, the British, I mean, this is recent history, the British manipulated that. And now where's Sudan? In misery. It was a bit of an effort. In August 2024, the US had meetings coordinated by Switzerland in Geneva for peace, and they created a peace process called ALPS. You know, get the analogy? Switzerland, Alps, ALPS, Alps as in the Alps. It stands for something obscure like what? It stands for the Advancing Life's Program, the Alliance for the Advancing Life-Saving and Peace in Sudan, ALPS, Alps. God help us. It's done some good work, but only a little. Only a little good work. I mean, what the little is? No man made greater mistake, or no man or woman made greater mistake than they only did a little. They did nothing because they could only do a little. My wife's favorite quote. It did a little. It got some agreements for some humanitarian access routes into Darfur, where a lot of fighting is going on. And Darfur is important. I mean, obviously, Darfur has faced terrible starvation, terrible fighting. The Rapid Support Forces particularly controlled Darfur. And controlled much of Khartoum, not Omdurman. The army controlled Omdurman. Well, not entirely, but chunks. And the army controlled bits of North Khartoum. The main Khartoum is mostly Rapid Support Forces. The RSF are supported by United Arab Emirates, amongst others. The Sudanese Armed Forces are supported by Egypt and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, amongst others. I mean, what to say? What to say about this whole business? I think Sudan's finance minister, Jibril Ibrahim, called for the closing of the humanitarian corridors into Darfur. A couple of hundred trucks have gone in that way. He said because the RSF are using them for weapons. RSF has the entire border with Chad to bring weapons in. This is just a little corridor where aid can come in to the villages and so on. And people like Kids for Kids, the charity we like and adore so much, can make a difference. There's talk now about a Cornish-based charity shelter box going in. I hope they will. If they do, then it would help, because we have a situation where people can return to the villages because the RSF, the Janjaweed, if you like, the cattle ranchers with guns, they haven't got the time to attack the villages. So there's a opportunity for people to go back to the villages. But there's nothing for them to live in. There's been no harvest, and they have no huts, and just scraps of cloth. And if the Cornish charity shelter box goes in, they're thinking about it, then that would provide tents, that will back up the work of Kids for Kids that are providing other support. I hope they'll do it. They need to man up and have some chutzpah and do it, I mean, charities don't like going into war zones because they're frightened of having their people killed. Well, yes, I understand. The RSF, I mean, there are various bits of war going on. Al Jazeera, the Jazeera area of Sudan, the cotton growing area down south where the sugarcane refineries used to be. A lot of fighting there. It's a beautiful area. I love it. I remember it well. Green, lush. A lot of fighting there. It was taken by the Rapid Support Forces and then from the Sudanese Armed Forces. Then the SAF captured one of the RSF generals, and then he defected. Well, to save his life, he defected with some of his men. And then the RSF came back again and attacked and raped, murdered, in its attempts to take back Jazeera. But, I mean, there's not one better than the other. The Sudanese Armed Forces made an attempt on 26 September to retake the city of Khartoum. Khartoum main, central Khartoum. They tried to retake it, and they started doing summary executions. And they executed 70 young men between 26th of September and 2nd of October. Just stood them up and shot them. What barbarians Sudanese armed forces are. So, and various other things going on in the background. 21st of October, a Russian Ilyushin jet was shot down in Darfur, bringing in arms. Yes, I mean, I forget. The RSF shot down the cargo plane. It was bringing in arms for the Sudanese Armed Forces, Sudanese Army. What is this civil war? It's awful. Awful. The bombing of civilians by planes coming out of Egypt. So we have a terrible situation. What is particularly disgraceful is that the international community is really doing nothing. I mean, I know that was the Alps effort. If you go back a bit, there was a very important group called the Quad. The Quad was the United States of America, Britain, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. Now, you remember that Saudi Arabia is backing the army, and the United Arab Emirates are backing the militia, the Sudanese Armed Forces. The army is Muslim Brotherhood, by the way, which explains why it doesn't explain why Saudi is backing them, but it explains why Emirates hates them so. I mean, both these groups are supplying mercenaries to fight in Yemen. Russia backs both sides. Clever Russia. Gets gold from both sides. Anyway, the Quad, if Britain would only resurrect the Quad, the colonial power takes some historic responsibility, resurrect the Quad, which was active in the early days after the Sudan Civil War started. If Britain would resurrect the Quad, then it could, because basically the Sudanese armed forces are refusing to come to peace talks. And therefore the rapid support forces aren't put on the spot. If Britain resurrected the Quad, then Saudi Arabia can put pressure on the Sudanese armed forces. We might have a chance at ending this war. It wouldn't be democracy. People are trying desperately to produce democracy for Sudan. It's a dream, maybe. But we could have a kind of line of control peace for the time being, until such time as democracy could be promoted. Britain is doing nothing. Britain is responsible. Nobody else is doing anything, so time for Britain to step up to the mark, because we have a historic responsibility. We were the architects of the comprehensive peace agreement that partitioned Sudan, and we are the architects of the chaos that is in Sudan now. We created the circumstances that have led to this position, Britain, in recent years. So we have a responsibility to do something. We don't even provide aid. We don't support Kids for Kids or anybody else to provide aid. We do nothing. Time for action by David Lammy and others in the British establishment that are sitting back and watching. Shame on us. There are three major conflicts in the world today. One is the conflict associated with Israel. The other is the conflict associated with Ukraine. And the other is the conflict associated with Sudan. And Sudan is the easiest to fix, and the one we make least effort to do anything about. Time for change, wouldn't you say? Time for a new start. Police. And time for you to take action, to write your senator or your member of parliament or whatever. These things matter, you know. There may be straws, but it's the straw that broke the camel's back. We have the power to do something, each one of us. So let's do it right quickly. Well, there's still time to make a difference. Bless you. He's hoping for a better tomorrow. We need one, don't we? I hope so. God bless.